So good evening, brothers and sisters.
Good evening.
We are at lecture number 2 in our series that we started this Sabbath morning, the ship Zion. The ship Zion. And we are at lecture number 2. So, as we said, our series is based on the account given in Acts 27 verse 1 to Acts 28 verse 5. And we said we have been using this account of a journey of a ship. And we have been seeing that they are very instructive understanding as it applies to God's church. We saw in 2 Timothy 3 verse 16 that all scripture is given by inspiration of God and is profitable for doctrine. So do we expect to have doctrinal issues being discussed? Yes. For reproof, that's for correction, isn't that so?
Yeah.
Reproof is to give a stern message. And for correction, for instruction in righteousness. So all biblical passages has a spiritual application where it can serve to delineate doctrines, bring reproof, give correction, and instruct us in righteousness.
Amen.
And for that reason we have been using the account given in Acts 27 verse 1 to Acts 28 verse 5 for that purpose. So we said that these texts that we see here in Acts 27 verse 1 to Acts 28 verse 5 give an account of Paul's journey. We learned that Paul was being accused by his own Jewish nation to be a disruptor, even worthy of death. And he appealed to Caesar. And he started a journey which is meant to take him onto Rome as he appealed to Caesar. And we said this journey that he started, he found himself on a ship of Alexandria. That's Acts 27 verse 6. That was sailing into Italy. And he was put there on. Not only him, mean Paul, but Aristarchus, we saw, was on the ship. We also saw on the ship Dr. Luke and Paul, and we saw other prisoners were on the ship likewise. We also made a point that this is an Alexandrian wheat ship. That's the ship that was on its way to Italy, and Paul and his companions were placed on the ship along with other prisoners. But this ship we're likening to the ship of Zion. And we saw in Adventist Review and Sabbath Herald number 1858, page 2047 paragraph, let us keep on board the old ship Zion, which the Lord has piloted through all the perils of a sea of time. For how long? For 6,000 years. So this is a metaphor that's being used. This ship has been traveling for some 6,000 years. And we're looking at the period of this ship's voyage, as we're going to see from AD 61 going forward. That's the type, and the anti-type we said it's from October 22nd when? 1844 going forward. What's so special about this ship, as we said, it's a ship that's always present. Its cargo is always present, meaning present truth, meaning relevant, meaning applicable. So the ship Zion, we have spent some time this morning and we looked at this through this word of God and through the spirit of prophecy. And we learned that the ship Zion is a Seventh-day Adventist movement with Jesus as captain, the remnant people as passengers, the spirit of prophecy as co-pilot, the biblical prophetic word as the master chart, the restored truth or present truth as its cargo, and the organization as timbers of its framework. We spent some time this morning and we established that quite nicely. So those who are seeing this video may not have seen the previous one. I asked to go back and look at the series, the ship Zion, and the first lecture was Captain, Cargo, and Construction. And that study was established this truth biblically and through the prophetic writings. We're going to continue our journey now. So in our journey, we were right here, let's start here, where we said Paul appealed to Caesar, then he was taken to Sidon, then they took a ship, and the ship went to Lycia, to a particular port named Myra, and from there that's where they entered a large grain ship. And they're going to be sailing from Myra going forward now. And when we had sailed slowly many days and scarce were come over against Cnidus, the wind not suffering us, we sailed under Crete and over Salmone. So this is what we're talking about. So they leave Myra and they're sailing under Crete. They came to Salome and they had to go under Crete. And hardly passing it, came into a place which is called the Fair Havens. So far they're at a time of relative peace. So though they were sailing at a point in time when it was not advisable, because it was the autumn equinox, and in the regions of the Mediterranean, that's a dangerous time to sail. But they came to a place called Fair Havens, a time of relative peace. That's the interpretation we're bringing to it. Nigh, we're on towards the city of Lassia. So hear what we're saying now. So they left from here, the wind was hard against them, they sailed to Salmone, then they sailed on the Crete, going to a place they call Fair Havens. Now when much time was spent, and when sailing was now what? Dangerous. So as we said before, they were sailing during the time of autumn. The Jews didn't travel during that time in the Mediterranean Sea because it was known to be very tempestuous with major storms. Because the fast was now already what? Which fast is this? The day of atonement. So in prophetic time, this is now beyond October 22nd, 1844. Are you following me, brethren? Paul admonished them, Acts 27 verse 9. What was the admonishment? Well, let's establish this first. So in the context that the fast was now already past, what was the prophetic date when they left Fair Haven? Alright? The date they left Fair Haven was after the prophetic date of the Day of Atonement. This date corresponded to after October 22nd, 1844. So we're discussing issues going forward now. Are you following me, friends? Yeah. As the ship of Zion sails the sea of time. Now, so I'm bringing interpretation to Acts 27 verse 9. Now when much time was spent and when sailing was now dangerous, because the fast was now already past, meaning after the typical Day of Atonement, October 22nd, 1844, Paul admonished them. So they were at Fair Haven, and they decided they're going to try and get to a place called Phenice. So they left, and they're on their way trying to get to Phenice, which was some 34 miles away from Fair Haven. And Paul said to them now, and Paul said to them, Sirs, I perceive that this voyage will be with hurt and much damage, not only of the lading on the ship, but also of our lives. Nevertheless, the centurion believed the master and the owner of the ship more than those things which were spoken by Paul. And because the haven was not commodious to winter in. So Fair Haven wasn't a very commodious place, not a very accommodating place. It was open to the wind. The more part advised to depart thence. So Fair Haven was not a very comfortable place to spend the winter in. If by any means they might attain to Phenice or Phoenix, and there to winter, which is an haven of Crete, and lie towards the southwest and the northwest, meaning that it wasn't so exposed to the elements of the weather. So here they are. They were at Fairhaven. It was more exposed to the elements of the winds. So they said, let's try and see if we can make this 34-mile trip to Phenice right here. That's a fraction of a day's journey by ship. Supposedly an easy journey. So Paul said, let us winter at Fairhaven. The master of the ship and the others said, no, let's try and get to what? Phenice, because it's more commodious, it's more accommodating for us to spend the winter. And when the south wind blew softly, supposing that they had obtained their purpose, loosening thence they sailed close by Crete. But not long after there arose against it our tempestuous wind called Euroclydon. Our second discussion is going to be on the ship Zion part 2, a tempestuous wind. So, a tempestuous wind called Euroclydon. What does Euroclydon mean? This is Smith's Bible Dictionary. Euroclydon means as violent agitation. But it goes on. You're a tempestuous wind or hurricane cyclone on the Mediterranean. Friends, are you following?
Yes.
A very dangerous, now called a levanter. The wind seized the ship in which St. Paul was ultimately wrecked on the coast of Malta. It came down from the island and therefore must have blown more or less from the what? Northward. I want you to get that. We're going to expand that in meaning like you never see before. So Euroclydon is a wind that blows generally from the north. Are you following, friends?
Yeah.
Friends, we got that?
Yes.
Euroclydon is a wind that blows generally from the north. Sometimes you might see it expressed as the northeast. We're going to look at that expression soon. So, here I'm looking at the New Living Translation. We're not using this as a method to study, but I'm just trying to show you that other translations use the same mindset of northeaster. Are you following me? So here in the New Living Translation it says, but the weather changed abruptly, and a wind of typhoon strength called a northeaster. So they didn't use Euroclydon. They used the word what? Northeaster. So where's the wind was coming from? Which direction? Northeast. Are you following?
Yeah.
Northeaster. Burst across the island and blew us out to sea. So they expected to make a 34-mile journey that would have been a fraction of the day. And Paul said, don't leave Fairhaven. And they were trying to go to a more commodious place called Phenice. And they left Fairhaven, and a northeasterly wind called Euroclydon blew them out to sea. So what is spiritual Euroclydon? Well, we have learned two things about Euroclydon so far. It's a wind, and it blows from the north or northeast. That's what we have gleaned so far from the word Euroclydon, right? It's a tempestuous wind, and it blows from the north or northeast. But let's go deeper now. What does wind represent in prophecy? Well, Daniel 7 verse 2 says, Daniel spake and said, I saw in my vision by night, and behold, the four winds of the heavens strove upon the great sea. So in one sense, wind represents what? Strife, persecution, warfare. Yes?
Yes.
In one sense. But let me introduce another concept for what wind represents. Ephesians 4 verse 14 says what?
Yeah.
That we henceforth be no more children, tossed to and fro, and carried away by everyone. Wind of doctrine. So wind not only represents strife and persecution and warfare, but wind also represents unsettling doctrine. And look at the language that Paul uses here. He uses a mariner's language. Why do I say that? Tossed to and fro and carried about by every wind. Are you getting the concept he's bringing here?
Yes.
By the sleight of men and cunning craftiness whereby they lie way to deceive. So the wind here can be seen as, yes, the wind can be seen and understood as strife, persecution, but also winds of what? Doctrine. So here it is, friends. I'm combining both together because they're just as applicable. In a spiritual sense, winds represent strife, warfare, persecution, or unsettling doctrines. I'm going to spend most of the time on unsettling doctrines because Unsettling doctrines is what's going to cause the strife and the resulting persecution. Are you following me, brethren?
Amen.
Let's go a little further now. So it blows from the north. Who comes from the north that is against God's people? Let's go to Jeremiah, verse 1. Jeremiah chapter 1, verse 11 to 15 now. We're being doing some application, we will call exegesis, a prophetic exegesis. Jeremiah 1, verse 11 and 12 says, Moreover, the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Jeremiah, what seest thou? And I said, I see a what? Rod of an almond tree. Then said the Lord unto me, Thou hast well seen, for I will hasten my word to perform it. So God here had a controversy with the children of Jerusalem when they were in apostasy. Are you following me so far?
Yes.
And God is now going to predict what's going to be the winds of strife against them. Let's go to Jeremiah 1, verse 13 and 14. Listen what it says now. And the word of the Lord came unto me the second time, saying, What seest thou? And I said, I see a what? Seething pot. That's a pot, that's what? Boiling over.
Yeah.
And the face thereof is toward the what? Ah. So what's mentioned here is a seething pot, a boiling pot. And the face is towards the north. And verse 14, Jeremiah chapter 1 says, Then the Lord said unto me, Out of the north an evil shall break forth upon all the inhabitants of the land. I want us to be careful now. They were blown out to sea by Euroclydon, which is a northeasterly wind. We learned that wind represents persecution, strife, and winds of doctrine that are unsettling. And we're looking now in Jeremiah, where the message was given to Jeremiah, that Jeremiah, they're going to be what? Evil coming from the north. So the question we need to ask ourselves is, who coming from the north? Well, here is Jerusalem right here. And just Babylon here. Where is Babylon to respect to Jerusalem? Not going north, but northward.
East.
Northeast. Huh?
Wow.
So northeast of physical Jerusalem was physical what? Babylon. So when God was saying to Jeremiah in Jeremiah chapter 1, 11, 12, 13, 14, there's a seething pot, a boiling pot coming from the what?
The north.
From the north. And we found that northeast of Jerusalem is what? Babylon. So in a physical sense, northeast was physical Babylon. Are we good so far?
Yeah.
Well, let's do some spiritual application now. So the Babylonians came from the north and they led the third deportation of Judah into captivity in 586 BC by Nebuchadnezzar. Are we clear on that?
Yes.
Friends, we got that?
Yes.
So when God was speaking to Jeremiah, God was saying physical Babylon that lies physically northeast of Jerusalem is going to physically come to Jerusalem and take the physical children of Jerusalem captives. Did that occur?
Yes.
Absolutely. When did it occur? 586 BC by Nebuchadnezzar. So is there a physical application, or we want to say a typical application? Yes, there is. Let's go a little deeper in application now. What is spiritual Babylon now? We discuss physical Babylon, let's discuss spiritual Babylon. The Bible tells us in Revelation 16, verse 19 and verse 13. And the great city was divided into three parts. What are the three parts of this great city called Babylon? And I saw three unclean spirits like a frog comes out of the mouth of the one. The dragon, the beast, and the false prophet. So therefore, the system of spiritual Babylon composed of what? Three elements. Absolutely, my sister. The dragon, which we saw before as Eastern and all pagan religions. The beast, the papacy, and the false prophet, apostate Protestantism. I'm stating these as facts because we have studied this before in previous studies. You're all there, you can go back and see. It's hard for me to go read and study through this all again. Would never leave. Alright? So that's spiritual Babylon is a composite of what? The dragon, the beast, and the false prophet. Now, let's see the application now in Jeremiah. Jeremiah chapter 1, verse 15. Let's focus, brethren.
Yes.
Let's focus, don't get distracted. For lo, I will call all the families of the kingdoms of the north. Who are these families of the kingdom of the north? They are what we call the what? The Babylonians. Friends, are you following?
Yeah.
Say the Lord, and they shall come, and they shall set everyone his throne at the entering of the gates of who? Jerusalem. And against all the walls thereof round about, and against all the cities of Judah. So God is saying to his people in the typical understanding that they're going to be an attack coming from the what? North. And we see more precisely northeast, because we saw that Babylon was northeast of Jerusalem. Yes?
Yes.
So what is spiritual Jerusalem? We discussed spiritual Babylon before, which is the dragon, the beast, and the false prophet. Are we good so far?
Yes.
Let's look at the spiritual Jerusalem now. Joel 2 verse 32 says what? And it shall come to pass that whosoever shall call in the name of the Lord shall be delivered. For in Mount Zion, beautiful, you get that, friends? We're talking about the ship of Zion. We're going to get to that Mount Zion soon. That's where the ship is going to go, by the way. We'll get to that afterwards. And in Jerusalem shall be deliverance, as the Lord had said, and in the what? Remnant whom the Lord shall call. So the remnant here is being described as who? Jerusalem. So who's the remnant? Who is the remnant? Well, Jerusalem is likened to the spiritual remnant. We saw it in Joel 2:32. But Revelation 12:17 says what? The remnant is described as those who what? Keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus Christ, which is the what? Spirit of prophecy. So therefore, friends, the remnant is the passengers on the ship of Zion, the organized Seventh-day Adventist movement, which is going to be under an attack by the winds of Babylon. Doctrines that result in unsettling and also persecution and strife. Let's get into that now. So what are the winds of doctrine from Babylon Euroclydon that blows against the Seventh-day Adventist movement? Now, I want us to be careful and be clear about something now. These are winds that are without the ship. These are not winds within the ship. Are you following that, friends? Yeah. Next Sabbath, we're going to be discussing what's happening within the ship. But we're discussing now what are the issues the Seventh-day Adventist movement will have to face as doctrines that are contrary to God's doctrines to cause an unsettling of the ship. Are we following so far? Yeah. Alright, let's look at that now. The wind of spiritualism. I'm going to go back because we're just leaving now. We left Fairhaven, as we said before. We left Myra, sailed to Fairhaven, just around, we said around after 1844, October 22nd, 1844. Are you following me, brethren? So we're going to stay in that same time context. So we're going to try and understand when did spiritism start to have its blowing effect. Revelation 13 verse 13 says, and he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men. We're discussing spiritualism. For us to understand the context of fire coming from heaven, we have to go back in time and look at some typology. So let's go back in time and look at, we're going to go to 1 Kings 18, 21 and 22. And there was a controversy between the prophet Elijah and the worship of Baal. Are you with me so far? And then there was the point where the controversy came to its head. And here was a discussion that was being brought forth in 1 Kings 18, 21, 22. And Elijah came unto all the people and said, how long halt ye between two opinions? If the Lord be God, follow him. But if Baal, then what? Follow him. And the people answered him not a word. Then said Elijah unto the people, even I only remain a prophet of the Lord, but Baal's prophets are 450. And we saw in 23, a contest was established. This is going to make sense for us. It's going to tie it nicely. So 1 Kings 18, 23, 24 says, let them therefore give us 2 bullocks, and let them choose 1 bullock for themselves, and cut it in pieces, and lay it on wood, and put no fire under. And I will dress the other bullock, and lay it on wood, and put no fire under. And call ye on the name of your gods, and I will call on the name of the Lord, and the God that answered by fire. Let him be God. And all the people answered and said, it is well spoken. So here now we see the prophets, the priests of Baal, doing their gyrations. 1 Kings 18, 28 and 29. And they cried aloud and cut themselves after their manner, with knives and lancets, till the blood gushed out upon them. And it came to pass, when midday was past, and they prophesied until the time of the offering, the evening sacrifice, that there was neither voice nor any to answer, nor any that regarded. What was this? What was the experience they were going through? Well, hear what the Spirit of prophecy have to say in Prophets and Kings 151st paragraph. This is what it says. Gladly would Satan have come to the help of those whom he had deceived, and who were devoted to his service. Gladly would he have sent the lightning to kindle their sacrifice, but Jehovah has set Satan's bounds, restrained his power, and not all the enemy's devices can convey one spark to Baal's altar. But let you go one step further and clinch the point. This is what you said now. Prophets and Kings 150, 4th paragraph. All day long the people have witnessed the demonstrations of the baffled priests. They have beheld their wild leaping around the altar, as if they would grasp the burning rays of the sun to serve their purpose. They had looked with horror on the frightful self-inflicted mutilations of the priests, and have had opportunity to reflect on the follies of idol worship. Many in the throng were weary of the exhibitions of what? Demonism, and they now await the deepest interest in the movements of Elijah. Demonism is the same as spiritualism. So I'm using a technique here of typology to understand that the wind of spiritualism in type was seen when the contest was between Elijah and the priest of Baal. Are you seeing, friends? Yeah. Are you getting the parallel? Because Revelation says he caused fire to come down from heaven in the sight of men. And I'm saying that this time in the past, God prevented Satan from bringing fire down from heaven. Yes. But the method that they were trying to use was a method of what? Demonism, which is what? Spiritualism. That's the point I'm making here. Now let's apply this now in the anti-type now. I want to discuss sometime after 1844 going forward. We're going to look then now at how spiritualism influenced the churches. So it started in March 31st, 1848, after the fast was passed. Are you following me?
Yes.
New York State, there was a mysterious rapping, and there were 3 sisters involved, the Fox sisters, and this signaled the birth of spiritualism. And this is what the Spirit of Prophecy had to say about this. CET 168, 2nd paragraph. So modern spiritualism, August 24, 1850. And the Spirit and Ellen G. White now is now making some pronouncement. Listen carefully now. I saw that the mysterious rapping was the power of Satan. Who powerful? Satan. Some of it was directly from him, and some indirectly, through his agents, but it all proceeded from who? Satan. I saw that soon it would be considered blasphemy to speak against the rapping, and that it would spread more and more, that Satan's power would increase, and some of his devoted followers would have power to work miracles, and even to bring down fire from heaven in the sight of men. So we're seeing here now that this wind Euroclydon, one of the manifestations is winds of doctrines that are unsettling. And the first unsettling doctrine we see that is being blown against the ship of Zion is the message of what? Spiritualism. Is a message of spiritualism. But I don't want to miss the point, because in following sermons that we're going to look at, we're going to establish this point here. Look at this point. I don't want to miss it. And I saw that soon it would be considered blasphemy to speak against the rapping. And that it will spread what? More and more. That Satan's power would what? Increase. So we're just discussing here 1848, 1850, when the modern spiritualism came as a wind blowing on the ship of Zion. Friends, are you following me? Yes. But is it going to get worse with time? Yes. Alright, so we'll have to look at a few lectures from now, when we see Spiritism actually in the church, in the Adventist church. We're going to get to that, but we're going to stay in the context of time. Because the ship of Zion is on the sea of what? Time. And on this part of the journey so far, we're just at the early part of the journey, the 1840s, the 1850s. Are you following me?
Yes.
I'm going to read a long discourse that she said on the whole issue of modern spiritualism. I was shown that by the rapping and mesmerism, these modern magicians would yet account for all the miracles wrought by our Lord Jesus Christ. And that many would believe that all the mighty works of the Son of God when on earth were accomplished by the same power. So we see a different doctrine coming on now. We see a wind of doctrine, a wind of strife coming in now. Changing the people's understanding. No, Jesus didn't heal people through the mighty power of the Spirit of God. No. Jesus was a magician. He used mesmerism. You see the content in view? Are you seeing the content in view? The Bible says one thing, spiritualism saying what? Something totally different. Continues. That time will soon come, and we shall have to keep hold of the strong arm of Jehovah. For all these great signs and mighty wonders of the devil are designed to deceive God's people and overthrow them. So while the remnant people are on the ship of Zion, and the wind Euroclydon is blowing, it's a deceptive wind. Because spiritualism is deceptive. Our minds must be stayed upon God, and we must not fear the fear of the wicked. That is, fear what they fear and reverence what they reverence, but be bold and valiant for the truth.
Amen. Amen.
Could our eyes be open, we should see forms of evil angels around us, trying to invent some new way to annoy and destroy us. And we should also see angels of God guarding us from their power. For God's watchful eye is ever over Israel for good, and He will protect and save His people if they put their trust in Him. When the enemy shall come in like a flood, the Spirit of the Lord will lift up a stand against him. So while the people of God is on the ship Zion, we shall face the winds of doctrine, unsettling doctrine to unsettle the Advent believers. Are you hearing me, church?
Yeah.
And one of this wind of doctrine unsettling is going to be the issue of spiritualism. And I'm showing you now that as early as 1848 to 1850, the wind of Euroclydon, one of the blowing here, was the wind of spiritualism. And people were questioning the veracity of the Word of God. And questioning the authority and the power of Jesus Christ, ascribing it to what? To spiritualism. Said the angel, remember thou art on the enchanted ground. I saw that we must watch and have on the whole armor and take the shield of faith, and then we shall be able to stand, and the fiery darts of the wicked cannot harm us. Before we finish this series, friends, I'm going to show us that spiritualism has not only entered the churches, but has entered our religious and educational institutions. Friends, are you hearing me?
Amen.
So what she said there in 1848 and 1850, that is going to get stronger and stronger. The wind going to blow harder and harder against the ship Zion. But is it possible the wind can get inside the ship? Absolutely. We're going to discuss that. That's about 4 or 5 studies from now. We're going to discuss that. We're going to see the wind of spiritualism actually in the Adventist church. But friends, let's not be nervous or frightened. We know who the captain is.
Amen.
Jesus Christ is the captain, and Jesus Christ will see the ship through. So we're not going to be alarmed, friend.
Amen.
Now, she made some connection between spiritualism and the other wind that will be blowing against the Adventist church as early as the 1840s coming forward. Here's a link she put together. Beautiful link. Testimonies, volume 5, page 451. When Protestantism shall stretch her hand across the gulf to grasp the hand of who? The Roman power. When she shall reach the abyss to clasp the hand with what? Spiritualism. That's Babylon. That's the threefold part of Babylon. Are you seeing it? Here it is. Protestantism, apostate, Roman power, and spiritualism or paganism. Are you seeing that? So that's why Babylon now, which is the wind coming from the what? The north. Yes? North, northeast. when under the influence of the threefold union, our country shall repudiate every principle of its constitution, which means it's to put aside, as a Protestant and Republican government, and shall make provisions for the propagation of what? Papers, falsehoods, and delusion. Then we may know that the time has come for the marvelous working of Satan, and that the end is near. So when we see spiritualism rising and being attended by apostate Protestantism and the Roman power, then we know that what? There's going to be a propagation of people's falsehood. Which main faithful falsehood? The wind of Sunday's sacredness. So look at one wind so far, the wind of spiritualism, and that's going to be tagged and be the driving force to bring on the wind of what? Sunday's sacredness. So back to the word of God. Revelation 13:14 says, and deceived them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles, fire coming on earth in the sight of men. Remember we discussed that? Yes. Spiritualism. So that's not going to lead to what? Deceived men by that miracle, which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them. So spiritualism is going to have an effect to cause what? Driving of another agenda. Say to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast, which had a wound by a sword and did live. Are you seeing that, friends? So spiritualism is going to have its effect first, and that's going to drive an agenda to form the image of the what? The beast. Are you seeing it, friends? So what's the image of the beast? Great Controversy 445. The image of the beast represents that form of apostate Protestantism which will be developed when the Protestant churches shall seek the aid of a single power for the enforcement of our dogmas. I'm just laying foundation here. We're going to be building on these foundations. So the image of the beast is apostate Protestantism that seeks the arm of the state. Are you understand that, friends? Yes. Great Controversy 445, first paragraph continues. When the leading churches of the United States, uniting upon such points of doctrine as are held by them in common, shall influence the state to enforce their decrees and to sustain the institution, then Protestant America will have formed an image of the Roman hierarchy, and the infliction of civil penalties upon its centers will inevitably result. So the first wind of Euroclydon we see being blown against the ship of Zion is the wind of spiritualism. And that wind will drive the occurrence of another wind of doctrine, another unsettling message, and that's the one of what? Sunday sacredness. Friends, are you seeing that? Yes. And that's going to come in the context of the image of the beast being formed, which is apostate Protestantism when it's using or seeking the aid of the state to push its mandate. Revelation 30:15 says, and he had power to give life unto the image of the beast. That the image of the beast which would both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. So the image of the beast is going to be formed, and then it's going to be given life so it can speak and cause. It can influence legislation and enforcement of legislative actions. And verse 16 Revelation 13 says, and he called it all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in his right hand or in his forehead. Now, hear what the spirit of prophecy has to say now regarding this. And we're discussing this in the context of the timing of the ship of Zion leaving Fair Havens and being caught in Euroclydon. So listen to the timing that she's giving now. As a people, we are Seventh-day Adventists. Look at our next words now. After when?
1844.
After 1844. Was that when the ship left Fair Havens? Absolutely. Yes. After it was well after the fast. Remember we said that?
Yes.
Yes. The searching of the scriptures showed us that we were not keeping the 7-day Sabbath that the Lord has sanctified and blessed. We see now a very great movement being made to compel a more strict observance of Sunday. So from as early back as then, 1844 up to 1888, the wind of this false doctrine of Sunday sacredness was being blown. Friends, are you here? You get it? It's going to get very strong, friends. Let's buckle ourselves down in the church. Let's buckle ourselves down in the ship Zion. That a law be made to compel men to observe a day that has not been set apart or ordained of God, to compel them to worship a day born of papal authority. They had exchanged days sanctified by Jehovah, and in its place present as pure Sabbath to be observed, and laws enacting a penalty if they do not obey the laws. That's 19-letter manuscript. 1904. Laws enforcing the observance of Sunday as a Sabbath will bring about a national apostasy from the principles of republicanism upon which the government has been founded. The religion of the papers will be accepted by the rulers, and the law of God will be made void. Before this series finishes, I'm going to get to the point exactly where we are in this prophetic fulfillment. Because we think we're far away. But I'm just showing you the concern of the pioneers and the early believers from as early as when the ship left Fairhaven. And the church started seeing the effects of not only spiritualism, but what? The whole issue of Sunday sacredness. The winds were blowing from as early as then. Last events 129, 5th paragraph. This very class put forth the claim that the fast spreading corruption is largely attributable to the desecration of the so-called Christian Sabbath, and that the enforcement of Sunday observance would greatly improve the morals of society. This claim is especially urged in America, where the doctrine of the true Sabbath has been most widely preached. Friends, it's going to get worse with time. And before we finish, we have several sermons to look at. Especially we're going to look at the whole issue of anchors up and into the wind. That's the topic of one of the sermons. And time is going to come where the anchors, the ship anchors are going to be pulled up, and the ship is going to be tossed straight into the wind. We are there. And about 4 or 5 studies from now, we're going to be spending some time on that topic. I'm just establishing as early as not as in the 1840s, 50s. The church was aware that we were facing Euroclydon. Winds from without the church. Next Sabbath morning, we're going to be discussing issues within the church. Last events 129, 4th paragraph. Satan puts his interpretation upon events, and they think, as he would have them, that the calamities which fill the land are a result of what? Sunday breaking. Thinking to appease the wrath of God, these influential men make laws enforcing Sunday observance. Friends, the wind will get stronger. Great controversy 443, 2nd paragraph. In order for the United States to form an image of the beast, the religious power must so control the civil government. Friends, we are there. I wish I could go in this right now, but I'm going to show some temperance. We're going to discuss and we're going to see how the present president and the present legislator are in bed with the church and the evangelicals. We're going to discuss that in great detail, but I don't want to run ahead. I'm trying to stay in the context of time, because the ship of Zion sails on the sea of what? Of time. So, Great Controversy 587. This very class put forward the claim that the fast-spreading corruption is largely attributable to the desecration of the so-called Christian Sabbath, and that the enforcement of Sunday observance would greatly improve the morals of society. We discussed that before. What about this one? 10 manuscript releases 239. Satan puts his interpretation upon events and think as he would have them that what? The calamities which fill the land are a result of Sunday breaking. Thinking to appease the wrath of God, influential men push to enforce Sunday laws. Friends, we're going to look at those in more detail now. I'm just establishing these conceptual understanding as early as when the ship left Fairhaven. That the wind of Euroclydon was blowing against this Adventist movement. We discussed that one already. Last events 126, 2nd paragraph. Those who are making an effort to change the constitution and secure a law enforcing Sunday observance will realize what will be the result. A crisis is just upon us. And she was saying that in 1889. I wonder how close we are to the crisis now. We got to discuss that. We got to discuss the whole issue of anchors up and into the wind. We got to discuss the ship running aground. Bridget, are you listening to the message I'm saying to you? These are topics that we're going to discuss later on. Anchors up into the wind, that's one topic. Going to be followed by ship aground. And then we're going to see how close we are to these issues. Goes on. Political corruption is destroying love of justice. This is 1911, she's saying this. I wonder what you would say now.
I'm telling you, it's over.
Political corruption is destroying the love of justice and regard for truth, even in free America. Rulers and legislators, in order to secure public favor, will yield to the popular demand for law enforcement and observance. Friends, we are there.
Yes. Yes.
Let me give us a point of reference. The spirit of prophecy was given, who has been co-pilot to the ship of Zion, recognized for this United States of America to enforce a Sunday law. There must be evidential corruption of the rulers and legislators. We are there.
Yes.
When people can take their conscience and with a searing hot iron, burn their conscience away. Friends, we are there. We are there, friends. And as I said to you, I don't want you to miss several lectures, but two especially I don't want you to miss. I don't want you to miss anchors up into the wind, that's one, and ship aground. I don't want you to miss those two lectures. Another one I don't want you to miss is abide in the ship. Those are three essential lectures you must catch. Because we're going to be discussing issues when? Presently right now. So I want us to realize that as early as 1911 she was saying that, recognizing that for this country to go under, we're going to be seeing legislators and rulers that are so corrupt that we could never imagine we're sitting in front of our eyes right now. And it's going to get worse, friends. So spiritual Euroclydon is the strife, persecution, and doctrines from spiritual Babylon, paganism, papacy, and apostate Protestantism that will be targeted against the Advent movement. And friends, we are facing that right now. We have a lot to talk about. We're going to also be talking about, what about those Seventh-day Adventist churches who are having Sunday services to catch a certain set of fish? I think these are fish that doesn't have fins and scales. I don't know if you get it.
Yes.
I want the church here. We'll be discussing that. We'll be discussing how can Adventist church be opening up for the purpose on a Sunday just to catch those fish without fins and scales.
Right, when it comes to Sabbath.
You guys not listening. We're not trying to get them in on Sabbath. We're trying to meet them halfway by jumping out the ship.
Yeah.
We're going to be discussing that. We're going to be discussing that, friends. We're going to be discussing that. And we're wrapping up, friends. Listen up, friends, carefully. And when the ship was caught and could not bear up in the wind, we let her drive. It appears as if the ship of Zion is without a pilot. It appears so. Appears so. And running under a certain island which is called Clauda, we had much work to come by the boat, which when they had taken up these, they used helps undergirding the ship, and fearing lest they should fall into the quicksands, strike sail, and so driven. Follow me, friends. Let's stay together. Let's keep the conversation as short and keep paying attention. And we, being exceedingly tossed with a tempest, the next day they lightened the ship. Our next discussion, Sabbath coming, God's willing, is the ship. Zion part 3, lighten the ship. Let me say something to us. We have far more to fear that's within than without.
Amen.
And for us to get through this tempestuous wind of Euroclydon, yes, the winds are outside without the ship blowing against the ship. But there are things within the ship that's within us, the remnant that we need to toss off the ship. Let me say one more time. There are things within us, the remnant, as individuals, that we need to toss off the ship as we lighten the ship when we are being tossed by the tempest. When you have a ship at sea and it's overladen and it's heavy, it doesn't bear a storm very well because it sinks deep in the water and it's very hard to manage and handle. So in the time of Euroclydon blowing against this Adventist church, in the time of spiritualism and Sunday sacredness from without blowing against this ship of Zion, the Seventh-day Adventist movement. The people of God will have to work on issues within and within each one of us. And there are going to be some things that we need to toss out the ship, to lighten the ship. Not us jumping off the ship. Things within us that we need to toss off the ship as we remain on the ship. And I invite you to come back next Sabbath by God's grace. We're going to discuss light the ship. And as I've done this morning, I'm going to remind you again, if you want to go to the website, Harvest Message International, www.harvestmessageintl.org. We have all these different series there. End time events and parables, life eternal, truth in the sanctuary, 144,000, revelation to health, the remnant in prophecy, explaining world events, USA in prophecy, and build a bridegroom coming. All of these, almost 80 to 100 sermons. I'm inviting you to go there and be a part and be able to watch some of these. We're going to close off in prayer. They want to take one or two questions. Shall we pray?